You're not going to believe what I'm about to tell you. I'm going to tell you some things. You're not going to believe these things I tell you, and that's okay. You have reason not to. But I need you to keep listening regardless of what you believe. I don't care if you're liberal, conservative, or somewhere in between. I don't care if you're a cat person, a dog person, or a tarantula person, morning person or night owl, iPhone or Android, Coke or Pepsi. I don't care. All I care about is that you read this to the end. Sound good? Then let's begin. You may have heard that George Washington had wooden teeth. I put the fur in First Amendment. He lost most of his teeth in his 20s and had a set of dentures made out of wood. It's a disturbing visual. The founding father, commander-in-chief, and first president of the United States click-clacking his way through a ham sandwich. Would you like a bite? Clop, clop, clop. Except it isn't true. In 2005, at the National Museum of Dentistry in Baltimore, laser scans were performed on Washington's 200-year-old dentures and found them to be made of gold, lead, hippopotamus ivory, horse, and donkey teeth. His mouth was a petting zoo of nightmares. Upon learning this information, I want to ask you something. How did it feel to learn this new fact about George Washington's teeth? I stated a thing, I provided evidence of that thing, and presumably you now believe in the thing I stated. Presumably, your belief in the composition of George Washington's teeth has changed with little or no friction. Presumably, the next time you're at a party and George Washington's teeth come up in a conversation, you're going to proudly impart this newfound knowledge to your fellow partygoers. Yes? What if I had told you George Washington had another set of false teeth? What if I told you the set wasn't made from wood, ivory, or any of the aforementioned materials? What if I told you it was made from the teeth of slaves? Now let's try this again. How did it feel to learn this fact about George Washington? Any more of that friction I mentioned earlier? Before we go any farther, allow me to reiterate. I'm not here to convince you that George Washington was a bad person. I could go through all my cited sources and cherry-pick arguments that either defy or demonize George Washington. I could paint a portrait of a monster, or I could exonerate a patriot. But as I said before, I don't care. It's not the point. The point is to give you an emotional barometer of how you feel when presented with new ideas. Because you may have noticed that the first fact about George Washington's teeth was rather easy to accept. I would even wager that when I told you the first fact, you accepted it without question. This could be you. Oh my, how gosh darn interesting. But when I told you the second fact, you immediately checked my sources and are now furiously composing an informed yet incendiary retort, which you will boldly deliver to me in the form of a sour, blustering Facebook comment. Fuck your whole worldwide right in the bump pipes. That might be you. And that's okay. That's all part of it. Let's try a few more. Napoleon Bonaparte was not short. He was 5'7", which was taller than the average Frenchman of the time. You must be this tall to conquer Europe. You see, he is taller than that. Thomas Crapper did not invent the flush toilet, nor did the word crap come about because of his name. This is Thomas Crapper. My legacy is shit. Houseflies live for about a month, not 24 hours. Life is short. It's false. Humans don't explode in a vacuum, nor do we boil. We just pass out from the lack of oxygen, and then we die. The three emotional phases of being blown out of an airlock. Shock, more shock, oh god, still in shock. Again, as you read these facts, take stock of how you feel. I'm guessing you softened to the last few fairly easily. Let's try a few more, and then we're done. There is zero evidence that Jesus Christ was born on December 25th. That's cool. I don't mind that you forgot my birthday for the past 1,000 years. The Pledge of Allegiance was written by a socialist. 6 of the 7 justices who voted in favor of Roe v. Wade were Republican appointed. How'd those last 3 feel? Depending on your beliefs, I'm guessing it may have put some of you about right here. Pretty angry. At the very least, you can concede that it felt different to hear those statements compared to the ones about Napoleon or houseflies. Yes? But why? Why do we easily soften to some ideas, but not to others? Why do we gnash our teeth when presented with evidence counter to our beliefs? Why? Why do we not only ignore this evidence, but dig our heels in deeper and believe more strongly in the opposing argument? Why would providing more evidence make someone less likely to believe in an idea? It seems backwards and batshit fucking bonkers to me. Turns out, batshit fucking bonkers has a name in the world of neuroscience. It's called the backfire effect. And it's a well-documented psychological behavior. A few years ago, at the University of Southern California's Brain and Creativity Institute, a study was conducted where participants were placed into an MRI machine. Once inside, they were presented with counter-arguments to strongly held political beliefs. A few examples include laws restricting gun ownership should be made more restrictive, gay marriage should not be legalized. As participants were read these counter-arguments, various parts of their brains were scanned for activity. What the study revealed was that the same part of the brain that responds to a physical threat responds to an intellectual one. This area of the brain is known as amygdala, and that it's the emotional core of your mind. Unfortunately, it makes us biologically wired to react to threatening information the same way we react to being attacked by a predator. Facts equals an alligator with a knife. From an evolutionary standpoint, it makes sense. If you were a caveman and another caveman threw a boulder at your head, you wouldn't react by logically debating the pros and cons of getting brained. Core beliefs are the beliefs which people cherish the most deeply. They usually develop from childhood and are compounded by life experiences. Core beliefs are inflexible, rigid, and incredibly sensitive to being challenged. When I told you that George Washington's dentures were made from animal bones, it probably didn't ruffle many feathers. But when I suggested they were made from slave teeth, I'm guessing it caused strife with some of you. There are obvious cultural reasons for this. Slavery is a sensitive, hot-button issue. But there are biological reasons as well. The amygdala of your brain is screaming battle stations. Some of you may have held a worldwide view that George Washington was a patriot and a hero. By presenting negative information about him, it challenged that world view. Your brain loves consistency. It builds a worldwide view like we build a house. It has a foundation and a frame and windows and doors, and it knows exactly how everything fits together. If new piece is introduced and it doesn't fit, the whole house falls apart. Your brain protects you by rejecting that piece. It then builds a fence and a moat and refuses to let in any visitors. This is why we have the backfire effect. It's a biological way of protecting a worldview. Just remember that your worldview isn't a perfect house that was built to last forever. It's a cheap condo, and over time, most of it will turn to shit. So, what do we do about this? Some of you have probably been nodding along in agreement, waiting for me to deliver a series of clever, combative ways to offset that backfire effect. disappointing truth is that I don't have much advice for you. I don't have a way to change the behavior of 7.5 billion people carrying their beliefs around like precious gems wrapped in hand grenades. Sure, there are ways of changing people's minds that are more effective than others, but ultimately, they all fall short. This is compounded by the internet, where anything can be cited as a source, and every disagreement degrades into a room full of orangutans throwing feces at each other. The best thing I can do is make you aware of it so you can identify the backfire effect in your own brain, which isn't easy. The mind can't separate the emotional cortex from the logical one, and one could argue that this emotional underbelly is what makes us human, but I would argue that it's also what makes us animals. I sometimes pretend the amygdala of my brain is in my pinky toe. When a core belief is challenged, I imagine it yelling and saying things at me. I let it yell. I let it have its moment. I let the emotional cortex fight its little fight. And then I listen. And then I change. Because the universe of ours is so achingly beautiful, and we're all in it together. We're all going in the same direction. I'm not here to take control of the wheel or tell you what to believe. I'm just here to tell you that it's okay to stop, to listen, to change.